A very warm welcome to all from the Other Side series. I'm Raga Olga De Silva, or Totally Out Now, as you know me. I'm the co founder and director of Speaking Minds, India's largest international speaker agency, representing speakers and content from all around the world who are not just ordinary people, they're extraordinary sometimes, who share adaptable, actionable, and real experiences and insights. Today, we have a very interesting and inspiring guest. He was the CEO of an IT company for 25 years before he decided to try stand up comedy as a hobby. And at the age of what? At 44. At 48, he gave up his full time job and got into full time stand up comedy. I mean, I cannot even imagine contemplating something like that. So please join me in welcoming Atul Khatri.
Hi Raga. Hi. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Atul. Welcome, 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 and thank you for accepting our invite. And we are so keen to hear about your journey from being a chief executive officer to chief entertainment officer. And wow, so I'm going to start by asking you something
Sure.
which may excite you and excite our audience. At
Okay.
first, I
Okay.
hopefully we have our audience joining in soon. Atul, have you always been a funny man?
Not really a funny man, but I'm a Capricorn. So Capricorn, we are generally little introverts, so we don't like open up. So we open up with friends. That's what I came to know when I read about the Capricorns. But so I was always funny, the funny guy in my family circle and my close friend circle. But if I'm just meeting strangers, like going for a party where I hardly know people, then I'll be very, 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 very. People say, Arsha, he does comedy. People still won't come to know about it. So yes, I was a funny man, but only to my close friends and family circle. And yes, online, when Facebook came out in, I think, 2009, 2010, I was one of the early adopters of Facebook. And that's how it started, where I started, posting my thoughts of the day, my views. It could be satire, it could be politics, it could be in Bollywood, it could be in cricket, it could be, anyway, on life. And then I used to put my own thing, and people say, hey, you're very funny, you're very original. So so yeah, there was an outlet for me to sort of show people that I am a funny guy. Yes.
So you have a gift of the gab, as we say, right?
Yes, I could say that. It's a very good question you asked me, because there's a stand-up comedy book which is considered to be the Bible. It's actually called the Comedy Bible. It's by a lady called Judy Carter. She's a comedian from New York, and in that book, after getting into comedy, I read the book after 2 years into comedy, and there it actually says that how do you identify a comedian, or do people have it in them? So, and in fact, it was the same point that he's a funny guy in his friend circle, in his close circle. He's constantly the friend who comes to a party and cracks jokes and things like that. So yes, I had that thing right from the beginning, you could say.
Okay. We've done a few projects together, and you have been a big name for everybody in India, the last few years. And I know that people love your comedy. I mean, the Justin Bieber comedy, for instance, is something that that's how I got introduced to you.
Okay.
We watched you at the LSE in London and loved
Yes.
loved your, and of course, ever since then we've had many other corporate shows together. But what is
Yes.
interesting is, like, a man like you's, CEO of an IT company, I'm sure enjoying the frills of those that kind of life.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
triggered you to get into comedy?
So it was actually, it was when I was 44, as you said it. And uh, that was, I look at it, I think it was midlife crisis. I was sure that, because at 44, the children are growing up, they're about to get into college. And from there, I used to always feel that from here life is now like a downhill, that now. And I was in the computer business, and my children obviously didn't want to follow that path, and things like that. So it was, I knew that it was, and I always had this feeling that you should try something. And that it is now or never. One thing which used to really bother me, that later on in life, I don't want to say that, when I become old, when I retire, when I'm in 60s or 70s, oh, I wish I could have, at least should have tried this, I should have done that. So I think since 20s 30, like, I got out of engineering college. After working, I got straight into business. I started my IT firm. And that's how I grew the company. So always there were some aspirations, I wish I could do that. But at 44, I thought it's now or never. And
Wow.
I said, okay, let me now try my hand at it. So I started, actually, I said, let me do something. And honestly, my wife also sort of egged me to it. She said, you must try something, because we're in an IT field, you there's too much of burnout, in the sense, because I was into the servicing part and the sales part of routers and networks and firewalls. and you are continuous, you're like working honestly 24/7. And being in India, we had a lot of global customers, so actually it was honestly a 24/7. You used to get calls at 3 a.m. from some client in New York. His server is down in India, so we had to go and rush and support it and things like that. And she's my wife also egged me, "Okay, listen, you must have something more to than this job, which is, which you can see that you're getting burnt out by the end of the week. So try to pursue something." And then I said, okay, let me do something. It's now or never. So I wanted to become a DJ. Always loved music. So yeah, so I signed up for a DJ course. And at that time there were no institutes, so you had to know a DJ, a friend of a friend who knew a DJ. So some guy very close to my house, not close, quite actually quite far away from my house, he said, "I know this DJ." I called him up and he said, "Yes, come on a Saturday at 11 o'clock to my house. I will get 10,000 Indian rupees and I as an advance, and I will teach you how to become a DJ." I said, "Amazing." So he called me at 11 o'clock to his house, and me being a corporate guy, I reached at 10:45 outside his house and waited outside his door, rang his bell. He was not opening the door, and waited outside. Called him on his mobile phone. He was not picking up his phone. And I had waited till 11:30, 12. Then I started leaving from there. As soon as I left, I was halfway back, and he called up, "Hey, I'm so sorry, dude. I was sleeping. I had a party last night. I had a gig last night. So please come back." I said, "No, sorry, you're very unprofessional. I don't like to deal with unprofessional." So I left from there. So that my DJ career ended there. Yeah.
But Atul, is there any like a moment, an epiphany moment when you thought to yourself, "This is it. This is why now I need to move from being a CEO to a stand-up comedian"?
No, no, I don't think there was one moment, but I think it was a pent up frustration of 2, 3 years, which I said I must do something. And that I think the constant fear behind the back of my head that it's now or never. After this, it may become too late. And I honestly, a lot of people are very comfortable on stage. In school they're taking part in plays or in elocutions or debates. I was not that guy. I was the studious guy who would just probably introduce the chief guest and run away from the stage. I was that kind of a guy. So yeah, so one more thing. So after DJing, I said, let me try my hand at bartending. Okay. So at that time, even flair bartending was just come to new to India. I'm talking about in 2011, 2012. So I signed up for a bartending course, which was on a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. I paid up for it, and but I'm a Sindhi, which is a community in India, and I had a very very heavy lunch that Sunday afternoon, and I knocked myself out. And I didn't go for that bartending course. So first because the DJ sleep, second because of my sleep, I sort of these sort of careers sort of died over there. But I was very sure I want to do something which was B2C, business, facing consumer side. So that's why I chose probably a DJ or a bartending where you get sort of instant gratification. So,
Sure.
and it's that time when, as I told you, my Facebook posts were going on. People used to say, "Hey, you are very funny. Why don't you try your hand in stand-up comedy?" And that time, honestly, I didn't know what stand-up comedy was. There was one video of Russell Peters which had got leaked, which is this famous video of Russell Peters, because of which Russell Peters became so famous. That video I saw on YouTube, and I said, "Let me know. Okay, let me see." And then I kept hearing that there are some open mics happening in Bombay. I went and saw one comedy show, and I said, "Yeah, maybe I can give it a shot at this." But again, still I know how difficult it is going on stage and making people laugh. It's okay to, uh,
Yeah.
uh, be on your own DJ console or behind the bar making drinks, but going on stage, the stage fear was always there. But it was actually a New Year resolution, 1st Jan 2012, or you could say December 31st, 2011. I remember I was at a friend's house, and there's this movie by Jim Carrey. I think it's called Liar Liar. If you
Yes.
haven't seen that,
It's
where his son's birthday, he wishes, "I hope my dad doesn't stop lying." And from that day, Jim Carrey stops lying. I think probably I had a moment where I remember praying to whoever, saying that I want to do something different now or never. So, and I signed up for the first open mic night, which came up on Facebook. It was on 2nd Feb 2012. 1 month. I didn't know what comedy was. I didn't know what stand-up comedy was. So I wrote a set. I thought this is what I saw Russell Peters videos, how you come up and say, "Hey everybody, I'm Atul Khatri. You're being a good cow. Thank you so much." And so I learned all those things, signed up for an open
wow.
mic, wrote a set, and yes, went for that open mic. I didn't tell my children about it because that time my elder daughter was 17, my younger daughter was 15. I thought, dad's gone crazy trying to do comedy at this age. I just took my wife along. She also asked me, "Should I come with you or will you handle it on your own?" I said, "No, no, please come with me because if I bomb, I don't want to jump off the bridge or something in humiliation. So please come with me." And yes, so from there it started. It was a fairly like how an open mic is in London. A lot of open mics happen in the UK.
Yes.
30 odd people on a Wednesday afternoon, and Wednesday evening, sorry, Wednesday night. There were 30 odd people, drunk people in a small room, and there were 8, 10 comedians. And I think I was third or fourth on the lineup. And when I went on stage, my hands were shivering, my legs were shaking, my throat became dry. But fortunately, I had remembered my set well, so I went and delivered it, and I did very well in terms of the audience liked me. A lot of the other comedians over there, they said, "Hey, you are very funny." Because what happens, a lot of people I know, it could have been like a bucket list. Okay, I tried my hand in stand-up comedy, tick and get out of it. But I met a lot of comedians that say, "Hey, dude, you're very funny, you're very original, you have a very different voice to what you're saying. Don't go for more open mics. Don't leave it at it." So actually, and Raga, people who have been on stage, people who are listening, who are performers, that the energy or the I would say uh, the high which you get uh, on stage and you make people laugh, that when I won that open mic. So that time, that open mic was, there's the audience used to decide who's the winner of the day based on the laughter and based on the clap. So I won that first open mic,
Wow.
and I didn't sleep the whole night. It was a very different kind of a high. I was remembering each and every second of the set, and I said, "My God, this is so addictive." It's like, actually it's like drugs. And
Sure.
from there it actually started, and I went on and went on more open mics. So yeah,
Sure.
and
So
then
when
in
so when
2000,
did
yeah.
like the Atul Khatri of the open mic become the Atul Khatri that we know today? So has it been a long journey, or was it again? I keep asking because a lot of people think there's a magic potion to people's success, right? They think overnight success. But how was it for you?
No, no, I don't think it's overnight success. Even there could be few prodigies out there, but I think there's a lot of hard work which goes. So right in the beginning, I did a lot of open mics, and that's the only way people, into poetry, into comedy, into music, you have to hit the open mics, try your new jokes, go on and on. So I think I remember in those days when I was working, I used to, go for open mics. Fortunately, stand up comedy happens in the evening, so I could have a day job as well as pursue this in the evening. So I remember I used to I used to wear a shirt, tie, jacket at work, and I used to carry my t-shirt and jeans in my office bag. And at 7:30, rushed in the toilet, office toilet, change into jeans, t-shirt, and rush
Wow.
to the open mic. I used to always say that I felt like Clark Kent every time. Getting out of his office clothes, wearing a Superman costume, and going out to save the world. So yeah, so it started with that, and I used to hit open mics very, very often initially, wherever the opportunity used to get. Fortunately, one of the big catalysts for the stand-up comedy scene in India was this comedy club called Comedy Store, which is there
Yes.
which is from London, right?
Right. Yes.
And Don Ward and his daughter Charlotte used to run it, and they were the first comedy club in India, and they were very, very. I think a big part they played in a lot of the comedians like us to form our careers, because at
Sure.
that time, just to let you know the scene, that was the scene when the stand-up comedy scene in India was just sort of coming up. And that time there were no comedians in India, so they used to get comedians from UK, from
Right.
Australia, visiting comedians used to come and perform. And we, as we used to do spots in between those main acts. So we used to do like a 4 minute or a 5 minute or a 6 minute spot in between these things, and from there actually it started. And I think at one time, when the Indian comedy scene or the comedians had enough material to hold an audience of their own, uh, those comedians stopped coming. And so
Sure.
I give a big thank you always to the Comedy Store in London. Since you're also from UK, big shout out to them for helping form the career of many comedians like us. Yeah.
Sure. At that time, I think Kingfisher was the main partner as well. I remember that those days of
Yes,
Kingfisher and the
yes.
Comedy Store, and I remember that.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but Atul, I just also want to know the comedy scene internationally has mature people, right? But in
Yes,
India, I remember a lot of young people. So
correct.
how were you able to break that mold?
Yeah, so actually I think it worked well for me. So in terms of see, as a comedian, what we say our stories, we say our life stories on
Correct.
stage. And me, because I was 48, 44, 48, I had a longer timeline. I could talk about my school life, my college life, my work life, my
Yes.
marriage life, my children, my life experiences. So I had a longer timeline, so that way I had an advantage. But however, there was a disadvantage also, because the comedy scene in India actually started in 2010. So it's 2020 is more or less a 10 years of the stand-up comedy scene. Before
Mhm.
that, there was no comedy, stand-up comedy of our genre. There were different genres like mimicry and regional comedy, which was there. But this kind of, where you talk about, satire, political satire, life satire, those things were not there. So it is just a 10-year-old scene. So generally, it's a very young industry. Even today, most of the comedians are, I would say, all in their 20s. Some of them would be in 30s now, but predominantly it's all in their 20s. So it's always, and
Sure.
also the audience, and as you know, India has a very young population. We
Right.
the so and that's the kind of audience which is consuming comedy. So I think I was fortunate enough that, I don't know, but people say that I think very young, due to which my jokes also relate to a lot of the young people. And when I say it, I get a lot this, I hope my father was as cool as you, talking all
Yeah.
this stuff. So that's a thing I get a lot from the comedians. Hey, you're a cool dad, you're a cool dad. So, and that's the reason my new comedy special, which I was touring right now, I call it Daddy Cool. So I've given it a name called Daddy Cool. So more in terms of that cool daddy, which I talk about how at my age I'm doing stand-up comedy. Yeah.
Sure. So between 44 and 48, for instance, what is that? That's very inspiring for me, because when I hear about your story,
Yeah.
44 to 48, a time in your life when you should be settled and doing what you had been groomed to
Hmm.
do. And you've taken this up, and then you suddenly, were there any points when you thought that this is not going to work for me? I better go back to what I was,
Yeah, actually, yeah,
meant to
Raga.
do.
So the thing was that, I was very, very, because I knew that if I get into this line, it's a freelancer job. If I was sure that night I have money, I don't. When you're working in a
Yeah.
corporate job for so many years, that fear of losing your salary, or your that cushion over you, that umbrella over you, that whether you work or don't work, or whatever you do, on a second of
Correct.
the third of the month you get your salary. So that was always there. And
Sure.
I took the right, calculation where, I did a lot of time management that time, and I used to shuttle between both. So I'm always, right from the beginning, I found time, and I've been very passionate about people, keeping to their time. Right from the beginning, it's been a thing. Whenever somebody calls me for an appointment, I see to it that I'm always 5 minutes earlier. Uh,
Sure.
Back then, when I was in my IT job, there was a quality initiative called Six Sigma, which was actually
Yeah.
started by Motorola. And one of the quality projects which I had taken that time, was about time, like how soon I respond to somebody's email, that time. So, you have to respond to the mail within 10 minutes. So that is sort of, uh, uh, a project which I had taken. So coming back to that, was I always felt that time is a thing. So I use time very, the resource, I think, is one of the biggest, costliest resources we have. So for example, right in the beginning, when I used to get shows even out of Mumbai, so I'm from Mumbai, and I used to get, sometimes when I was starting doing comedy, I started getting some corporate shows outside Mumbai. So I remember I used to take the last flight out, like a 4 o'clock flight from Bombay, go to Delhi, reach Delhi at 6:30, go straight to the show, finish the show, spend the night there, either come back the same night from Delhi, because I had to hit work back this next day. And I was under the constant fear that, my office should never complain that because of your comedy you are missing out on some projects or some deadlines or things like that. So that was a constant fear at the back of my head. And because,
Sure.
if I was pursuing this, there was no way I'm going to, feel that, or let my customers suffer, let my office suffer. But fortunately, I had a very, very, good team. They understood what I was doing, and they were very, very supportive. So I got a lot of support from both my family as well as, my, office, in trying to do what is, because I know there are a lot of comedians, young comedians,
Yeah.
who are working and they are very good in comedy, but somehow to run their house, and their office was not very supportive. So, their career sort of died over there only,
Sure.
because, yeah, that's thing. So I took 4 years to finally decide. And I think at the end of the, you know when I was 2 years into comedy, I could see that this line was growing very, very fast. I was good at it. I was getting a lot of corporate shows. I
Sure.
understood the market. I also, because of my CEO background, I got a lot of professionalism also, to the line, in terms of just replying back to event managers, in terms of, speaking. And because I'm slightly older, the corporate, crowd sort of relates to me, my material.
Yeah. Sure.
And
Sure.
even if they don't relate to me, what happens when they see a guy with salt and pepper hair going on stage, they'll say, okay, at least he'll have some, he's seen life. That's
Yeah.
the only thing.
No, no, I remember watching you in London, and I thought it was brilliant. And that particular act was, so different to the other acts that you've done. I think, which
Correct,
is,
correct.
every performance is so different which is what I
Absolutely. So
think
you have
is
to play to the audience. And
right.
in LSC, when I was playing, there were a lot of, obviously, there were students. I think around 200 students were there. So you have to play to them. You have to relate to them. You don't want to sound like an uncle coming on stage and ranting, So,
So have you ever missed your corporate life?
oh, not at all. Not at all. I think this has given me it's a new life because I have suddenly formed, you know, I always say that we work in orbits, So for 25 years, I was in that orbit of my, your same circle, your networks you build over, your partners, your customers you build. Suddenly, I've left all that, and in 2009, I got into stand-up comedy. And the reason I also said that, it would be foolish for me if I would have not, ridden on the faster horse which was growing at that. So that's why I took a call, and I was fairly prudent about it. For 2 years, I saw that I'm making enough money from stand-up as well as from my salary which I used to get from my computer job. And once I knew that it was there, and obviously my wife also said that, okay, take the jump now. It was not an overnight jump, it was not an
Sure.
impulsive jump, because like for today, right now, for example, the pandemic has hit us, right?
Yeah.
Now, for the next, I don't know when we'll go on stage. Maybe we'll hit the stage and in November, December, once the vaccine comes out, you know,
Sure.
otherwise nobody wants to sit in a crowded room. So in these times, I even now, even in this pandemic, I don't miss my corporate job because I still feel this is still better. So
Sure.
yeah, so I think uh, my wife also said that go ahead, take the jump. And my wife also, she works, so she's a hairstylist. So she is also so she said, if you don't worry, one day you'll have your ups, I'll have my downs, so we'll manage between ourselves. So thanks to her support also, I could take
Wonderful.
this jump, this leap of faith, and get full time into comedy. But honestly, I don't regret any moment of it. I love this thing. The fact that I'm did this, I'm sitting today with you and talking about the corporate job. I'm sure you have never contacted me.
This is wonderful. I'm thinking that all the people who are watching us, and there's quite a lot of engagement, a lot of people from around the world watching us, Atul. I'm thinking, sitting and thinking, how lucky you have a hairstylist for a wife in the pandemic.
Yeah,
Like, listen,
no,
look at
this is all my doing. Nothing. She's not got nothing to do with this. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but every time I research or talk to you and I find something new, and I'm this Insta handle that you have, one
Yes.
by two. Please tell us
Correct.
more about it. One by two is what?
So most of the Indians on this stream will understand. So India has there's a concept of one by two soup where you can go to any restaurant and very confidently say, I want to have a soup one by two. So rather than they serving you a portion and giving an empty bowl, they do the one by two in the kitchen itself. So when if you order one by two, you don't get one, you get like 1.2, 1.25, and we Indians love that. And this one by two soup was one of my first sets about the soup which I had done on my first open mic. Very so I love that handle. I love that one by two. I think which is very very unique to India. And by the way, it's for people who don't understand this. So we have one by two soup. We do 2 by 3. We do 3 by 14. We go. You can do what you want. You can form the most complex ratios, and the restaurant will serve you soup in that.
So you basically get two for the price of one, is like what you
You get
say.
1.25 for the price of one. Yes.
Oh, oh, how did I miss that? I lived for many, many, many years in India. How did I
So
miss
next
that?
time, Raga, you come to India, go to very confident to any restaurant in the biggest five-star hotel. Order, like if you're two of you, say I want a one, sweet corn chicken soup. Make it 1 by 2, and you see that they will serve it in two bowls, and it'll be actually be 1.25. So you get more value for money.
So coming back to your family, Atul, obviously, for every person's journey, there is support. Like you said, your colleagues supported you, your wife supported you.
Yeah.
So have you ever sat back and thought that what if I didn't have the support, or you're not that kind of person?
Uh, I think no, you're right, because unless you don't have support, it'll be very very difficult. Because I remember, so fortunately, me and my wife are very, I would say, a good understanding with each other. So when my wife also actually, she was working somewhere, she became a hairstylist a little late in life. Okay, she always wanted to sort of follow her passion. She loved hairstyling, and the time when she was sort of doing a hairstyling course, working in a salon to do that, I took care of the children that time, for making them study, taking them for their football coaching classes, and for a lot of things. And at when I started doing comedy, she was settled with her parlor, with a salon which she had. And that time she said, okay, now you follow your passion, I'll look after them. And then, because see, when you're doing gigs, and honestly, there was some periods where I used to not see my children for, like, I used to meet them only on a Sunday, because you go to work, you come back late from a gig, they're already sleeping that time. Then
Sure.
because you sleep late, by the time the kids have woken up at 7:30 and gone to school, so I used to meet them only on a Saturday, Sunday, so yeah, so we manage between ourselves. So I think you do definitely require support of your family, definitely, and also your office, also very important. If you're
Sure.
following if you're working somewhere and you still want to follow any passion. And I strongly believe, we live one life. I Even though I'm a Hindu, I don't believe in seven lives, nine lives, or whatever we believe in. We believe
Yeah.
in one life. Please to do whatever you can. Don't regret later on that I wish I should have done this. I could at least tried my hand on this. Try your hand in whatever you do. Yeah,
Yeah, Atul, you remind me of people like who have so much of self-belief that even if the other people are not really interested in that part of the journey, they kind of believe in you and they give you support because that's the belief, right? And that's the energy
absolutely.
you execute. Every time I've seen you, that's the energy. I want to be inspired by you because you are inspiring us right now. I have
Thank
a
you so much.
question for you.
Yeah.
So there's so much I want to talk to you about. There is this whole thing about that you have out-of-box costumes. So what is that? Like, is that Atul Khatri a different person?
No, so okay, actually, again, it's been inspired from London itself. Since you're from UK, for a coincidence. So I used to always I ran the Mumbai Marathon. Uh, I used to run the half marathon, not the full marathon. I'm not so fit, so I used to always run the half marathon, always in some costume. Okay, and that actually got inspired. So I forget the name of the gentleman, but somewhere in the marathon many years ago, there's a person who ran the entire London marathon in a and
Sorry, Atul, I think we've just got a bit of a audio problem. Just a bit of an audio problem for some reason.
me now. Sorry.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
no, little bit of an audio problem. So
Okay.
ju- just try again. Just speak. Sorry, audience.
Check. Sorry. Can you hear me? Back? No.
Technology. I guess a little.
That's
Fine. Oh, okay, he's come back. So let Atul come back. He's going to join us soon. In the meantime, please ask any questions that you may have. Be kind, be compassionate. This is a very interesting and sensitive subject in terms of comedy because everybody doesn't understand stand-up comedy. But hey, isn't it funny? Isn't it lovely when we can hear other people laugh and we can join in and enjoy their jokes, what they say, and through it, it's just not actually it's storytelling, isn't it? Storytelling in a narrative that makes us understand life. We have few other yeah, we are back. Welcome back, Atul.
sorry, guys. I don't know.
Now better.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah. So we were
Yeah, so
talking.
coming back, yeah, so I used to always run the Mumbai marathon, half marathon, some costume. It was actually inspired. So I forget this name of the gentleman, but he was a marathoner in the London Marathon who wore an ancient diverse suit, that big metal suit, I think weighing I don't know how many kilos, and he ran the entire London Marathon. London Marathon people usually complete in 4 or 5 hours, but he took like close to like I think 4 or 5 days to complete because the suit was so heavy. He used to
Wow.
run, yeah, and he did it all for charity. So that I got really inspired that when you run, make people laugh about it, make them smile. So I used to always run in a Superman costume. That was my favorite. And then I also have some theme. So there was one year in which Mumbai, where I stay, it had a drought and there was a lot of water shortage. So I ran with a bucket of empty bucket saying that save water. One time in Mumbai, there was a problem of mosquitoes. We had malaria or dengue. So I ran with the mosquito racket. Something simple, something this, just to convey the message to people: save water, take care of thing. And the idea of just running in a costume when you're running, the first reaction it is urchins on the road come they picture with you. I think it's a lot of I lot of fun when I used to run. Yeah, there is more from there.
So sorry, there was a bit of an audio glitch, but it's okay. I think we're having a little bit of internet glitch for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, no, better now. So
Okay.
yeah, that's a great story. So basically this is what I was saying when you just kind of went away for a bit, is that comedy is also with a message, right? We share a
Yeah,
narrative, we change
absolutely.
narrative. It's so important, that we use humor to share to do storytelling in a manner and make people smile
Absolutely.
and think and reflect, which is a big skill in itself. Now CEOs, see what you've got. You were awarded CEO has got talent award.
CEO's
Now,
got talent. Yeah.
like, which CEO now? CEO Atul Khatri, the original, or CEO, the new CEO?
So I started doing comedy in 2012. I started doing comedy in 2014. This property called Got Talent, which is UK's Got Talent, India's Got Talent, Britain's
Yes.
Got Talent. So
Yeah.
they came out with something called CEO's Got Talent. So they called me. That time I was the CEO of my company. So they called me, okay, hey, we've heard you're a comedian. Can you come and perform, take part in this contest? And I said, yeah, why not? And we were around 12 of us participating, and most of them were singers. Some of them, I think there was one or two dancers, but I was the only comedian sort of over there. And it was like a proper thing with three judges. There was Ravina Tandon, a very, very popular Bollywood actress. There was Mahesh Bhatt, is a very popular filmmaker. There was Raj Naik, he's the CEO of Colors TV,
Yeah.
which is a popular TV channel in India. So these three were the judges. There was the regular thing with this X marked, so they could have voted you out if they didn't like you. So I did all that and I won that contest, and so that was very nice. And that was actually very special for me because the first time I took my parents for it. So let me tell you
Oh,
a small backstory. Like my dad, mom, they're very conservative Indian family. They didn't know what I was doing. They know that he goes somewhere in the evening, goes for some stage show or something. They was this very popular thing called Kapil Sharma show, which comes on the Indian TV. So
yes.
they know
Yes.
what comedy is, but they had never, and my dad used to always sometimes figure, what is this guy doing? Why is he going in the evening at night? Or why does he, you know, this is a glamour line, it's not good for us. We are a conservative Indian family. So the CEOs Got Talent, the first show which I took them. I said, because it was a grand show, it was like 800 people, huge set. I said, please come for it. I want you in, so I took them. So it was me, my wife, my parents went for it. And it was, I won that award in front of 800 people. I got a standing ovation. And even though they didn't understand what I was saying on stage, but the fact that everybody was laughing, when people came up to them later on and said, hey, your son is doing a great job making people laugh, I think I got some kind of gratification there. And I think
Yes.
after that, their sort of thing to what I was doing, they started a lot of respect for what I was doing, actually. Yeah.
Sure. So do they follow now your comedy? Do they watch you? And
No, no, no. So they don't understand much because, see, even though they speak English, they read, this, but uh, they
it's such
find
a
me too fast, and I tend to abuse a lot also in my set, like how most comedians do. So I rather keep them away.
and your
So,
and your daughters have accepted this life
oh yeah,
that you
yeah.
lead, yeah? And
They
so
love it. They love it. So they find it damn cool that dad has become a comedian, and and an influencer or whatever, social media. I'm all on social media, so they find it damn cool. And yeah, yeah, and I think they're okay with it.
it's amazing. One wife, two daughters, and one active Tinder account.
No,
So
that's an
how do
old
you
thing. No, that was an old Tinder account. That was just for research purposes, because as comedians, you have to know what's happening in the world. So it was more for research purposes. So yeah, yeah, yeah. It was just a joke. I mean, I'm not on Tinder. Yeah, please. I'm on
no?
Grinder. No, sorry, I'm not. Sorry, no.
Okay, okay. Make up your mind. Let us know because I think the audience will be interested.
No, no, no. I'm not on Tinder any longer. Yeah.
No. Okay. You know, there is a lot that we want to know, but Atula, what I really am interested in knowing that as a person who's been through this whole journey, I mean, you're now of a certain age. What is it that you would tell somebody who's at this point in their life and saying that I don't know what to do
Hmm.
with my life? I want to follow my passion. I want to
Yeah.
follow my heart, but they're not able to do that because everybody doesn't find success either, like you have.
No, see, success. See, first of all, let me tell you, there's a lot of hard work. Even stand-up comedy, it may look very cool, but people know that making somebody laugh on is some of the most difficult thing. Making them cry is very easy. Making people laugh is extremely difficult. And what has also happened is, thanks to internet, thanks to WhatsApp, thanks to this social media, any event hits the world within minutes. There are like 2 lakh 100,000 jokes,
Yes,
memes
memes.
coming
Yeah.
out on that. Like on corona, for example, you open your WhatsApp or your messaging service every day, there are so many jokes, good jokes. So now when we go on stage and say jokes on corona, we have to talk about the environment. Our jokes have to first of all rise over that. Otherwise you'll say, hey man, I've heard it on WhatsApp. What the hell are you, I've heard
Yeah.
this joke before. Okay. So making people laugh, actually, thanks to this social media, which is it's a big irritant, it has become more and more difficult. So it's a hard work. So please come for it only if in the long haul. Especially in India, what happens is, because it's a new line, people think it's very cool. I'll go on stage, women find funny guys, attractive. I'll get laid. Nothing of that happens. It's a myth. You go back to an empty room, you go back to your wife, you go back to your this, but it's a lot of hard work which goes. So please come on in. It's a long haul. Be original, write original jokes, and one thing which is very good about the line, there is no nepotism here. If you have a good set, you just require your camera. You can go on stage, make people laugh. See, stand-up comedy is so simple. You write your joke, go on stage, make people laugh. That's it. Audience decide. Nobody decides. There's no judge. No comedian can decide any other comedian's work. So it's very instant gratification. Instant, whether your joke works or not.
Is
So
it hard to get into it, Atul? If somebody was interested, a young upcoming stand-up comedian, would they know how to do it? Is there a structure in place in India?
No, there is. So first of all, somebody teaches you stand-up comedy. So there are some comedians who have not. I think in this pandemic, a lot of them have started this giving people stand-up comedy classes. I personally believe you can teach something called as creative writing. So a lot of the liberal arts, and they have this thing of creative writing.
Sure.
Stand-up comedy, in my opinion, has got two parts. One is the writing part, where you write your jokes, structure your jokes, which creative writing will help you. But secondly is going on stage and saying the jokes, remembering the jokes.
Yeah.
There's a performance to it. You have to pause. You have to, the way you deliver a joke. All that is very, very important. So it's a mixture of both. So you see a lot of comedians where their jokes are very strong on paper, but their performance may be lackluster. Or there are some comedians whose jokes are not very funny, but how they sell it on stage or how with their performance, it takes the joke to a different level. So I would tell people is that it's definitely getting more in India specifically, or like I'm telling you, I was I think in 2018 I was in UK, London, I had come for my own show. Then I was free for 2-3 days. I said, let me go and hit an open mic in London. So I spoke to a fellow comedian. He's saying, yeah, there's an open mic happening somewhere. I forget. It was an underground comedy club.
Sure.
And he said, why don't you go and request that gentleman whether he can give you a spot? I know the owner there, the club owner. Just go and ask him. So I went over there and he didn't even look up. He's saying, I said, hey, I'm a comedian from India. I want a spot, like a 4-minute, 5-minute spot. And I think I was there in July 2018. He's saying, yes, our next spot is November 2018. Go to the website, register there, come on that particular. Don't even call me before. So that's how brutal it is. So many comedians, So in July, you were getting a spot in November. So that's how it is. Fortunately, in India, the scene is not so vast as now. So you do get open spots. But I will tell people, write your joke, write original jokes. Don't steal jokes from other comedians. Don't take jokes from some smaller comedian somewhere, rewrite it and push it over here. If you're found stealing jokes, you're thrown out of this line. So go to write your jokes, memorize your set, practice it, go to an open mic, say it. If the jokes don't work, come back to the drawing board, again rewrite your jokes, again go back. That's the process. So yes, it's not difficult getting in, so that there's no entry level barrier.
Sure.
But on the other side, writing jokes is a very, very difficult part.
Sure.
And that's generally the toughest part of the job. Yeah.
Sure. And is there a lot of support between two, say, comedians, or is there too much competition?
No, so I personally feel that because everybody. So for example, a topic like corona, I will have a different take on it because I'm going through a different experience myself, right? You may have a different experience. Somebody else might be a different experience. For example, one of the biggest things in India going on, people are working without domestic help. So you see all the Bollywood actresses, washing their clothes, doing that. Honestly, I was privileged. I had like one domestic help, and his two brothers also were thrown out of their jobs, and they didn't get a ticket to go back to their native place. So I told that both their brothers to come to my house. So I had 3 people, so I didn't make Dalgona coffee. They made it for me. They took part in all the challenges. I, as a privileged guy, was doing that.
Oh, cool.
So that was that is my take on corona. So just to tell you that a subject like corona, everybody have a different take. So I really don't think there is competition. I would say between 2 comedians who are 25-year-old guys, the same age, maybe having the same experiences, there may be some overlap in jokes or things like that, but that they can sort it out among themselves. But I feel that stand-up comedy is, because you get your own stories, very, very difficult to really compete or get into each other's space.
Sure. Atul, I think we have very little time left with each other.
Sure.
There is a couple of questions that we have, but let me just ask you a couple of things that people have been asking. Somebody is saying, Preeti Shah says, I read somewhere funniest people are often the saddest. Is it true?
I wouldn't say saddest, but yeah. So, but one thing for sure, that we may not be funny off screen. Okay. Off stage. So on stage, we are a different person. once we are off, so like my wife gets this, my children get this question, oh, you must be have so fun at home, dad is must be entertaining you all 24/7. They said, no, no, my wife says, no, he's a horrible person at home, you know. So we may be very different off stage, because sometimes fans think, oh, you know, you go to a party, oh, you're a comedian, come on, tell us jokes. It doesn't work like that, you know. So I think I don't think we are really sad. I mean, yeah, there's a truth that most comedians actually go through therapy, because we are pouring our life stories out there. Maybe
Sure.
a lot of us are more sensitive. That's the reason we have picked up the courage to go and tell her, because most comedians actually pour out their stories. They talk about their divorces, their marriage, you know,
Sure.
their problems, you know, what they've been through. So yes, I would say they're more sensitive. I wouldn't say they would be sad, you know, honestly.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people are thinking about Charlie Chaplin and people like him when we talk about the sad, because he had a very, his biography was so sad, right?
Yeah, and also like one of the things, like Robin Williams, you know,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
a comedian who, you know, committed suicide, you know,
Sure,
and what he must be going through now. The thing is, you have to realize one thing is that which sometimes the anxiety which I go through is, you know, where you have gone to a stadium or a big show like 3,000 people, 2,500 people, you got a standing ovation, and then you come back to your room, you know, and it's an empty room. You know, when the lights go off, the curtains are drawn, you know, there's
mm,
nobody there. You know, even if your wife is there around, you know, she's heard your story. For her, it's a daily thing, you coming at 12:30 in the morning, you know. But for us, I want to be awake at that time, talk to her, tell her about the things, but she's not there. And rightfully, because she's a hairstylist, she has a job. I can't wake her
sure,
up at 12:30 every night and say, hey, listen to my set, this is what I did, or this is what happened, you know. Next day we'll obviously discuss it, but at that moment you need some way. So that's what happens when you suddenly go from so much adulation, you know, when, you know, and then suddenly you come back to an empty room. And I think that's why, uh, and this for us, for comedians, is not so great. But can you imagine the same thing for a rock star who's played
sure,
at Wembley, you know, and then going alone to a room where there's no, that's why a lot of these people get into substance abuses, you know. They want
sure,
always people along with them. They have their groupies and their, you know, their who they don't want to let go of. They always want their friends and their, you know, the wives and the girlfriends, you know, full entourage always coming to the room, partying till 7:30 in the morning, till they get fully drunk and go off to sleep. So people do that. In comedians is not too much of that, but yes, people go through anxiety. People go, we have to
sure.
realize we're also human beings at the end of it.
Absolutely. But how do you manage to stay grounded, Atul, through all this?
I think what really helps me is, first of all, I tend to in my thing, I tend to exercise a lot. So I
Okay.
make it a point to get at least 10,000 steps every day. Number one, a lot of people meditation helps. Uh, I uh, I think that exercise for me really helps. For me, my best the time I enjoy on stage is if I've had a very good cardio session, 1 hour uh, before my show. You know, just before
Okay.
my show, I've had a good cardio session. You know, I think the positive endorphins are flowing through your serotonin level is high. You know,
Sure.
you're pumped up, and you say, okay, come on, let's go and kill the show. You know, yeah. So I
Sure.
think that helps me to like, yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. We've got lots of responses here and engagement here. Shalu Lalwani has been constantly sharing lots of comments. There's Manoj Gurshahani, I think, common friend
Oh,
with
I
us.
know. Yes, yes, Manoj.
Manoj,
I know him
yeah,
very. Hi,
yeah, yeah,
Manoj. Hi,
yeah.
Shalu. Thank you so much. Yes.
The ma'am Masson is from very, very prominent personality from London, has been following you, and she's very funny herself. So she's been
Oh,
commenting quite a
fantastic.
bit. Yeah,
Oh,
and
thank you.
so there's some fantastic people here. There's a lady called Vinitha, who's also an author. She says thanks to Netflix and Amazon Prime and all the live shows that have become accessible to so many more people, so much young talent has come
Yeah,
up in India, and
absolutely.
some of them are really good. Does that make you nervous?
No, no. It honestly speaking, you know, it inspires me. It inspires me. Generally speaking, and this is not only with me. I've spoken to a lot of comedians, and what they really feel is that sometimes, you know, they watch other people's stand-up comedy. You know, when you have a writer's block, you watch other comedians' comedy to see where they have taken. It's not to copy their jokes, obviously not, but just to see that how they have, you know, handled the premise, how they have taken a joke to the other level, and that sort of inspires me. So no, I don't think. See, finally everybody will have their own niche, everybody will have their set of audience. I think you have to keep on continuing your work, you know, and you will find your audiences as long as you don't I always see most comedians, first of all, when they write a joke, they have to find it funny themselves. They don't work for the audience. They have to like it themselves. They write for themselves. They don't write for the audience. They don't play, okay, nowadays corona is going on, I have to write jokes on corona. No, If you have a point of opinion, a point of view on corona, obviously you talk. If you don't have it, don't talk it. It's absolutely okay. So the point I'm trying to make is that yes, uh, it's very important for you to just keep on going through the drill every day of, and uh, more and more platforms will come. Social media is picking up. These are just helping, your material reach most of the fans. Like I had a Netflix special last year. It's called Comedians of the World. People who don't know. So yeah, so I mean that was a good way. I got a lot of different audience. I got a lot of global audience in that, so that really helped me. And fortunately, because most of my material is in English, because a lot of now what has happened actually in the last 2 years in India at least, there's been a rise in vernacular language comedy. So you have comedy
Right.
in Punjabi, in Gujarati, in Marathi, in Tamil, which is perfectly fine because there's a different audience that's going to consume that. But I think in English, I write in English, so most of my content is usually in English. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
And yes,
definitely.
I think yeah, all these
Sorry.
platforms help us to reach out to more and more audience.
Yeah, it's good for us because the international audience loves your comedy. So it with you, thinking in English and speaking in English helps us. Atul, this is going to be a long question that I have, and
Sure, sure,
depending upon
please.
how much time you have, it's on the in the this is during the lockdown period, the whole pandemic, right? You've only come up with some positive news on social
Yes.
media, which we've all
Yeah.
been devouring and enjoying. How I'm just going to take this to what has been happening in India lately. Yesterday, we all woke up to really, really sad news. So how do you manage to keep this positive news going when all around us there is negative news, whether it's the pandemic, whether uncertainty of the future for all of us, people are losing jobs, deaths happening, people committing suicide. So how are
Yeah.
you managing that?
So I'll tell you what. So first of all, just to get to context, so I started this something called as Only Positive News from 15th of March. So let me tell you, from 13th to March to 13th of April, I had a 22 city tour in the US and Canada. So I reached Canada on 11th of March, thanks to Mr. Donald Trump saying that hey, it's just a virus, it'll go back, it'll go away in 5 days. On
Yeah.
his assurance, I went to Toronto for my show, and within 2 days everything collapsed. The world's shut down.
Seriously, yeah.
And by 13th of March, 14th of March, I came back to India. My entire tour for 1 month had got cancelled. I lost a lot of money, but that's okay. But I said, now what am I going to do at home? Because I don't have live shows. And what you read about the pandemic, it's very clear that if whatever starts, so first of all, as we are seeing that hotels will start, then movie theaters will start because there's a lot of money. We comedians will come last, you know,
Yeah, correct.
and so I said the next 8 9 months I don't have work, and I consider myself to be a fairly mentally positive and a mentally strong person. But those 3 4 days before the lockdown started, I was getting anxious. I was getting very, very nervous. I was feeling scared because this is the first time in the world you could see the world shutting down. We've never seen it before, and hopefully we should never see it again.
Right.
This entire global pandemic which suddenly happened, and we saw prime ministers getting. Boris Johnson got the virus. We saw Tom Hanks got it. We saw some
Yeah.
royalty in Europe dying because of this pandemic. So I said this is across borders, across things. So I started looking for news, and I couldn't find any positive news. Your paper, your social media was just talking about deaths. It was just talking about the doom. This impending thing, so much uncertainty. But I dug deeper, and I remember the first day I got only 4 positive news. And they were very silly news. Some tiger in some reserve in India had given birth to 2 cubs. That was a positive news. Some very small news. But at least they're positive. So I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
I'm going to only concentrate only on the positive news. So from 15th March, I came up with this thing called Only Positive News. And the kind of response which I got, because just like me, there were a lot of people out there, my fans and people who are on social media, who were going through the same boat of going through emotions, not knowing what's going to happen, especially the young people, because I'm old, I've seen a little bit of life, so I can know, okay, it's okay,
Right.
we know that this will go away. But for people who are seeing it for the first time, people losing jobs and all that. And just yesterday I completed the 75th episode of Only Positive News. I didn't know it would go long, honestly. Even I was very hopeful that this pandemic will get over. We always use the We thought it's the Wuhan model of 76 days, and 76 days the pandemic will go away. But at least in India it's going on, you know
Yeah.
for this. And generally, Raga, I did it to keep myself busy, because when I do this Only Positive News, I spend a lot of time on it and researching the topics. And then I've come up with a video. Thanks to this, because I was working alone, I learned editing. I didn't know how to edit my videos before, so I learned editing. And sorry. And this keeps me very, very positive. And I'm genuinely, and this, I think the positive energy which you radiate out at your fan, I've got so many messages from people who are separated from their families. A husband is there, wife is saying, "There, your positive news only keeps up this." We know, it's maybe the thing that they know, it's we know that nothing will really happen till the vaccine comes, but just that one person comes every day and says, "Hey guys, just chill, everything's going to go okay, just going to be okay." Even if I keep your positive spirits on for that half an hour, 1 hour after you watch my video, I've done my job.
Amazing.
And so I think that's, I do it. And yes, as you said yesterday, what happened, even yesterday, what happened with a very, very popular Bollywood actor, Sushant Singh Rajput, who was so young, who was so you never thought. But uh, just to let you know, I've been doing this initiative with my sister. So my sister happens to be Dr. Anjali Chabria, who's one of India's leading psychiatrists. So since 2018, she and me have been doing this initiative called the Shrink and the Nut. Obviously, she's the shrink, I'm the nut, where we've been going to colleges and schools and teaching them about mental health awareness, how there should be no stigma, how it's okay to take therapy, how to recognize signs amongst their young friends if somebody is going through some mental health issues, and to take them to the nearest mental health professional. So we are trying to create something called as mental health warriors,
Sure.
because just to let you know, in India we have a population of 1.3 billion people, but we just have close to 4,000 psychiatrists. That's it. 4,000 psychiatrists catering to one point. That's the, we are talking about this. So the idea is to go and teach people, make them recognize signs of somebody going through mental health issues, and don't give your advice because you're not equipped, you're not educated to give that. Pick that person up, take him to the nearest counselor or therapist. That's the idea. So thanks to this, yesterday what happened, even again, I was very, very emotionally hurt, and since yesterday, in fact today morning, I had a session of the Shrink and the Not online. Took it on Instagram, where for 40 minutes me and my sister just discussed this once again, telling people it's okay
Yeah.
to take therapy, it's okay to get, to what, today people even don't know the word depression. They take it so, so loosely. you know
Correct.
you're sad about, Manchester United losing a match, and you'll say, "Hey dude, I'm depressed." No, 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 no. You're sad. Depression is something different. you know
Correct. Correct.
so just teaching people this and telling them
Yeah.
it's okay to take therapy, it's okay to, and recognize the signs, keep on the look, listen to people, don't talk,
Yeah. Yeah.
listen. Just that what we are doing. So I think what yesterday, what the news was obviously very, very shocking. And I think and also I think it's a domino effect, because already people were going through this anxiety of corona, and on top of that, when you hear somebody young taking away his life, and people obviously sitting at home getting more access to phone, and also people are overthinking, overreading, and overreacting also. So I'm just telling, just stay calm. If you're feeling nervous, talk to friends about it, take therapy, and it's okay to
Yeah.
take therapy. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay to seek support, right? And the reason I,
Absolutely.
the reason Atul I brought this up is because I can tell you, and not because you're on the show, there are often moments we all go through this. Sadness is different,
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
being anxious, up and down is different because that's everyday thing. Because we can't confuse that with depression or clinical depression, like you rightly said. But for me, whenever I have these dark moments, I actually watch stand-up comedy, and this is
Absolutely.
how,
Yeah.
and that is why I actually wanted to connect the two, because in my own family we watch whoever it is, we are huge fans of stand-up comedy, because it's actually in that moment you forget the world, you're in that
Absolutely.
moment
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah. Yeah.
else's world, and finding it. And I want to actually tell people who are watching that do that. Make sure that you use this opportunity to find people like Atul Khatri, who are amazing, who share their life stories in a manner that makes us not only reflect but also actually helps us grow in a funny way, right? So thank,
Absolutely.
and your story is so inspiring, Atul. I'm really, you know, I will tell all, not whether you're 20 or 30 or 40, doesn't matter the age, you're ageless, right? It is that when you
Absolutely.
want to make a decision and you want to follow your passion and your path, truly believe in yourself. The people around you will
Absolutely.
believe in you, and then nothing else matters.
Absolutely.
Whatever, yeah,
Absolutely.
and then things happen, right? The universe conspires, as we say, if you believe in
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
spirituality. Yeah, so wonderful, wonderful to have you on a show. I
Thank
can
you.
actually, I don't even feel that you are sitting somewhere far, far away across the screen, because your energy is so infectious. So thank you very much for bringing that happiness and joy to us.
Thank you, Raga. Thank you, Nicola. Nicola is the one helping us backstage, so we should give her a shout out to Nicola also. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, Raga. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and stay safe, stay positive.
And thank you, audience, for taking part and engaging. And I'm sorry that we were not able to take each and every one of your questions. But please know that your feedback is important, engagement is important. And at some point, Atul will come back and respond to your questions online. Thank you very much, Atul. And signing out from Speaking Minds
Thank you.
Global. And you know where to find me, at Speaking Minds Global or at Totally Out Now. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks,
Bye.
Atul.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.